Nigeria's Super Eagles will aim to revive their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying campaign facing Rwanda's Amavubi at the Amahoro Stadium in Kigali. This particular story has been overtaken because the match has already been played. And with their qualification hopes hanging in the balance, the pressure is on for the three-time African champions to secure a much-needed victory. Nigeria has to avenge their shocking 1-2 defeat to Rwanda in ENUGU last November, which marked Amavubi's first ever victory over the Super Eagles. The reverse fixture in Kigali last September ended in a goalless draw. With just 3 points from 4 games, Nigeria is yet to register a win in the qualifiers D3L1, a record they must improve if they hope to make their first World Cup appearance since 2018. Meanwhile, Rwanda currently tops Group C with 7 points from 4 matches and remains unbeaten in its last 3 encounters against Nigeria. We're having a conversation around this story with Tony Ademodi, a sports correspondent. Good evening, Tony, and thanks for joining us on Signature Evening.
Yeah, good evening. It feels good to be with you live.
All right. And how is Abuja today?
Well, we're fine. We're good. I think the atmosphere is good. Nigerians at least to have something to celebrate that the Super Eagles of Nigeria were able to win against the Amavubi of Rwanda.
Okay, I understand the match has already been played. And our focus on this segment is an analysis of the World Cup qualifier match between the two countries, Nigeria and Rwanda. And so I'd like us to begin with a highlight of how the match went.
Well, it was a game that, the Super Eagles of Nigeria knew that they needed to do everything possible to win. This is the FIFA World Cup qualifying game where Nigeria were actually working on the side slope before the kickoff of this game. Remember that before this game we had played 4 games, through the qualification series, and we're not able to get the desired result. We were sitting second to bottom of the table in our group before the game today against Amavubi of Rwanda. But now I think that has changed a little bit. We've come up the table with that 2-0 win over the Amavubi of Rwanda. Thanks to goals from Victor Osimhen, the brave of the moment, the Napoli player who is on loan from Napoli, who plays for Galatasaray right now in Turkey. He actually opened scores for the Super Eagles of Nigeria in the 11 minutes of that game. He actually had to score the first goal and got the second goal as well towards the tail end of the first half. And Victor Osimhen has taken his goal scoring record for Nigeria to 25 goals scored for the Napoli player who is on loan at Galatasaray, Victor Osimhen. He scored 25 goals for the Super Eagles of Nigeria in all competitions, and he has set a record that was last set by the legendary Shegun Odebami, back in the 80s and early 90s. But Victor Osimhen now has scored 25 goals for the Super Eagles of Nigeria. I think the man is actually having a great time scoring for club and country. We needed to win that game, and somehow we thank God that we're able to win 2-0 past the Amavubi. It's not yet Uhuru yet. We still have a long way to go. We still have about 5 more games to go. So it means that the Super Eagles of Nigeria would have to even do better, because up next for them will be a game against the Zimbabwe team on Tuesday at the Nest of Champions in the Akwa Ibom State. So it means that the Eagles must ensure that they win their next game and even go on to win the remaining games, because it's not going to be easy. You have the group that's got Lesotho, that's got Zimbabwe, that's got South Africa, that's got Benin Republic. These are teams, countries that are doing well, in the qualification series. So it means that the Super Eagles of Nigeria must ensure that they must win the remaining 5 games if we really stand a chance of being at the World Cup in the year 2026. And also, let's remember that the World Cup in 2026 will be, co-hosted by 3 countries: USA, Canada, and Mexico. So we can't afford not to be at the World Cup. Like I've always said in every platform, I think the World Cup gives, countries a luxury of, showcasing their talent. The World Cup is the biggest stage when it comes to football. Every country would always love to be at the World Cup. And I think the Super Eagles of Nigeria would also love to have Nigeria flag posted at the World Cup. I think today's game, in as much as I don't think the Eagles played so well, yes, we may have won by 2 goals to nothing, but then I feel there's still a whole lot of work to be done. Not the too much of a convincing win for the Eagles. Yes, you got the goals, yes, of course, but I think there are still loopholes in that team defensively. We still have to do a whole lot of work to ensure that we don't concede going forward. Yes, we may have won 2-0 today, but I tell you that the remaining games would even be more difficult for the Strikers of Nigeria, and more so that at this point in time we are not stopping the good. We've got South Africa there looking pretty good, Benin Republic also ahead of us as regards the qualification series. So we must ensure that we continue to do a good job. The Strikers of Nigeria, headed by Coach Eric Chell and his technical crew, Daniel Ogumo and Fidelis Inechukudi, his assistant coaches, will ensure that the players will continue to do well if really we stand a chance of being at the World Cup. Let's not forget that not every team, not every country will qualify to the World Cup. So we must ensure that we win the remaining 5 games to have a better chance of being at the World Cup next year.
But what does this particular win mean for Nigeria, the Nigerian team, given that they lost to the same Rwanda in the last match played at Uyo?
Yes, it means a whole lot, because if you look at how the table stands as far as the qualification series is concerned, you would agree with me that that win today has kind of given Nigeria some hope. If you look at the table, where we are talking about Group C, where Nigeria is being seated alongside the likes of South Africa, Benin Republic, Rwanda, Lesotho, and Zimbabwe. You can see that South Africa are topping that group with 10 points from 5 matches played. Benin Republic are second on the log with 8 points from 5 matches played. The Rwanda team that we won against today are still ahead of us. The light third on that Group C with 7 points from 5 matches played. Nigeria are fourth on the log with 6 points from 5 matches played. Lesotho are fifth on the log with 5 points from 5 matches played, while Zimbabwe are bottom of the log with 3 points from 5 matches played. So what it means is that Nigeria has climbed up the table a little bit. We were fifth on the log before this game, but with this victory today, we've gone up the table with at least fourth on the log with 6 points. It means that if we can get a result against Zimbabwe on Tuesday, again at the Gospel Aquabia Stadium in Uyo, we might as well get 9 points, and hoping that other results would also favor us, because in as much as we are hoping that we win, we must also take into cognizance that the likes of Benin Republic would also be in action. Rwanda would also be in action. So we hope that if we win our game against Zimbabwe, we'll be hoping and praying that Rwanda will lose their game and Benin Republic would also lose, because if these 2 countries win their game, it means Nigeria will still be behind them. So, but then all hope is not lost. Like I said earlier on, all we need to do is take this game as it comes. If we can win against Zimbabwe convincingly, and the hope that the Rwanda team and maybe the Benin Republican team would not get the kind of result that they need. But then let's also not forget that the Benin Republican team is also looking pretty good. They are doing so well. Benin Republican team is headed by Coach Gernot Rohr, who before now was coach of the Super Eagles, and I must give them credit. Look at what they were able to do today. The Republican team were able to do well. If you look at other results, South Africa defeated Lesotho by 2-0. We also saw other results as well. Nigeria beating Rwanda by 2-0. DR Congo winning South Sudan 1-0. Burkina Faso recording a 4-1 win over Djibouti. Equatorial Guinea 2-0 win over Sao Tome. Botswana lost to Algeria by 3-1. If you look at other results, halftime scores already. Ghana leading Chad by 3-0. Burundi losing to Ivory Coast 1-0 at halftime, and South Africa beating Lesotho by 2-0. So what it means is that Nigeria will just have to win their game if we must stand a chance of being at the World Cup. Because the truth is, whether we like it or not, we are walking on a tightrope. We may have won 2-0 today.
Even with today's winning,
it is not yet to who I tell you. We still have 5 games to go.
Okay.
So it means that we must win our game. Because I said it here earlier, in as much as we've won today, will also ensure that the other teams that are ahead of us, the other countries that are ahead of us, if you look at it, we have the likes of South Africa, who I think will be qualifying for this World Cup. They have 10 points already from that Group C after 5 games played. Then the Republic have got 8 points from 5 matches played. They are second on the log in our group. Rwanda, that we beat today, they are still ahead of us. 7 points Rwanda team have got from 5 matches played. So what it means, we must beat Zimbabwe in ENUGU on Tuesday if we must stand the chance of qualifying. Even if we beat Zimbabwe on Tuesday, it is still not yet to Huru. We must still ensure that we try to win the remaining games. Let's not forget, Nigeria will still go to South Africa in Pretoria to play against the South African team that is leading the group right now. So you can see that it is a very tight group. It is still very tight. We just have to ensure that we win the remaining games. And I think it is going to be a difficult one. Yes, we are Nigerians. We love to see Nigeria qualify. We love to see them, be at the World Cup in 2026. Most importantly, that we did not qualify for the last edition that was held in Qatar in 2022. So it means we must do everything possible to qualify for the next World Cup in 2026. We cannot afford not to be, at the World Cup missing 2 editions. Come on, it's going to be a disaster. We claim to be the giants of Africa. We must ensure, we must try as much as we can to ensure that we, qualify for the World Cup in 2026. But as a sports journalist, it is not going to be an easy task. It is never going to be an easy task. Other countries are catching up with us. Before now, games against the Republic, games against Rwanda, Lesotho, and Zimbabwe. Ordinarily, Nigeria should qualify from this group. But football being what it is, football has shown us that the other African countries are also doing better. I think one of the biggest problems we had was that maybe we can underrated some of these African countries, the likes of Lesotho, the likes of Rwanda, Benin Republic, and this team came here against Nigeria and got different results. Now, we are in a very tight situation. We are only praying and hoping that the Eagles will fly, in their next couple of games. So I think it's still a difficult group in as much as we may have won today against the Amavubi of Rwanda.
All right, Tony. I assume that Osimhen is the man of the match. What are your thoughts about him in preparation for the World Cup away from the qualifying games?
Well, Victor Osimhen needs no introduction. He's a super player. His statistics are very clear for everyone to see. If you go online, you're going to see what Osimhen has done every time he gets an opportunity to play for the Spiders of Nigeria. Not every player will get that luxury of being invited to the national team. So I always say that if a footballer gets the opportunity of getting a call-up to the national team in a country like Nigeria that has got over 200 million people, you're just lucky to be there. And Osimhen has not disappointed Nigerians every time he's been called up to the national team. Well, I did mention earlier on that Osimhen has set a record. He's got 25 goals for the Spiders of Nigeria, power play for the country, and setting up a new record that was last set by the legendary Shego Debami during his very active days. So Osimhen is a top player. He's scoring for club and country. His statistics are very clear. Just at the weekend, he did score a goal for his club in Turkey, Galatasaray. The man is having a great time. And what a game he had today. 2 goals on the night. We want to see him do better. He's been a marksman. He's been a go-to man himself. Ademola Lookman, Simon. These are all attacking players. I think if we must stand the chance of qualifying for the World Cup, we need 100% fit Osimhen. We hope that he stays fit. We hope that he doesn't get injured. Because realistically, if we must get goals, if we must score goals, we will be relying so much on the clinical fit Osimhen. Getting an assist as well from Moses Piper, from Ademola Lookman, who is also the reigning African Footballer of the Year. I think Nigerians will breathe a sigh of relief a little bit, but then it's still a long way to go. We still have 5 games to go, so we hope that Osimhen's brilliance and the likes of Ademola Lookman and the other players, Alex Iwobi, Moses Simon, Frank Onyeka, Wilfred Bidianco, will help the Eagles, qualify for the World Cup. Up next is a game against the Zimbabwe team on Tuesday. The Eagles will be moving back to ENUGU. I think in the early part of tomorrow morning, they should be leaving Kigali to hit ENUGU. There's no time to waste. This is not the time for jamboree. This is not the time, to waste our time and of course enjoy themselves. This is time for business, more so that they will be finding onto the pitch in the next 4 days against the Zimbabwe national team. So I think the Eagles know that, the players know this, they know the importance of this, qualifying series. The Nigerian Football Federation also understands the importance of this. The National Sports Commission, all hands must be on deck. Everybody must ensure that the Eagles, try to qualify. I just hope and pray. Nigerians are praying and hoping that for the first time that the World Cup,
these are wishes. These are wishes. These are prayers. I remember you said that we have so much to do to get there. But I need you to, as a sports analyst now, to tell us if you see Nigeria's qualifying for the World Cup 2026.
Well, my reactions may not sound too good for the listeners or anybody watching this right now. I think it's still very possible, but I don't know how we're going to navigate it. Now, I did mention to you that the South African team have got 10 points. Mm-hmm. We still have a game to play in Pretoria against the South African team. Yes, mathematically, it is not yet over. But realistically, I think we might be having a difficult game in South Africa. That game in South Africa might just decide our fate. Because I'm expecting the South African team to get a result in their next game. What it means is that if the South Africans get a result in their next game, they might be having 13 points. So it means that the Super Eagles of Nigeria will have to win their game against Zimbabwe to at least take them to 10 points. If we win our game against Zimbabwe, we should be having 10 points, notwithstanding whatever happens in the game between the Benin Republicans and the other team. So I think our battle now will be between South Africa and Nigeria. Let's not forget that just, not every country will qualify here. We'll have just one country qualify. So you can understand that it's going to be a very, very tight game. Realistically, as a sports journalist, I may want to sound a little bit negative. I think the Eagles will find it difficult to qualify from this group. I don't know why I'm sounding this way. Every other listener may want to disagree with me. But realistically, I think we might be finding it very difficult to qualify because South Africa is leading the way there. I think they have a brighter chance of qualifying, even the Benin Republican team. So realistically, I think it might be difficult. But then, as a Nigerian, we can only hope and pray that maybe a miracle happens. But as a sports journalist, I tell you one thing, it might be difficult. I think Nigeria may not qualify for this World Cup in Canada, Mexico, and the United States of America.
Thank you very much, Tony Ademode, for joining our conversation on sports this evening.
Well, thank you so much. Always a delight to be on air with you guys.
All right, we continue with the program on the next schedule. Stay with us still.
With a population of about 36 million people, the Southeast is awash with stories. Every day on Southeast News, we tell the peculiar story of the Southeast and her people.
Our Southeast should be the Silicon Valley of Nigeria.
Their successes, achievements, and daily challenges. Do you have a Southeast story to share? Community achievements and challenges, completed and uncompleted projects, bad roads, water scarcity, erosion, flooding, insecurity, or even disagreements? Bring it on to Southeast News. On Southeast News, no story is too big or too small. Southeast News. Let's tell our story. Showing on Signature TV every weekday at 4 p.m. WAT, 1600 hours GMT.
Welcome to another episode on Artograph, and I'm your host, Queenette Swokonta. I will be walking you through some artworks and what they actually signify, and possibly who made this beautiful artwork. Now, this first artwork is displayed with lots of musical instruments. We have the Iba, we have the Goja, popularly for Hausa people. We have Ishaka. We have Ishaka is the particular one that has things like our receipts You know, we use it in churches. We have the talking drum, we have the xylophone, we have ogene. There are so many instruments in this particular artwork, and you will give me the privilege to call this a means of communication. Let's call it mass communication. Now, why do I say so? For the ogene is used to pass information. If we're very conversant with so many villages and of course traditional movies, you would see where the town crier uses this ogene to pass information that have been given to them by the king or the ruler of that particular community to pass to the villagers. It's a means of communication. Like I said, you give me the privilege to call this a mass communication. Now, there's this particular artwork that has two openings. It is made with a wood. This particular artwork is used to make a sound. What kind of sound? If there is a war that is about to take place between two villages, or it is used to give a signal. This particular artwork is used to give a signal or to pass on information that there is something that is about to happen. Now, the ishaka, of course, it is used to, like the name sounds, ishaka. It calls your attention. Once that sound is made, you must be drawn to listen or to know what exactly it is going on. Now, information are transferred from this different artwork in different kind of ways. They have their own significance differently. We have the talking drum. We know how the talking drum is. It does not necessarily mean that it talks, but of course it makes some very melodious sound. How it calls your attention. You can imagine that a talking drum can actually sing a full music. A talking drum can actually make a full music. Now let's move over to the next artwork. This artwork signifies a young lady that is tied up in chains of Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and the likes. Permits me to call this particular artwork enslaved in social media. Now don't forget that we are in the social media world, the Gen Z world, where they said we are all drawn to social media, which is not a lie. But the question is your social media enslaving you? Do you do other things other than social media? Or rather, are you making money from social media, or are you entertaining yourself on social media? This artwork is a sign of warning and also an information. One, it is trying to tell us that social media has enslaved we, the Gen Zs and the young ones. And secondly, it is a sign of warning that you should not allow it to enslave you to the point that you have no other thing to do than to scroll through TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and the likes. Make sure that social media is giving you the right information that it's supposed to. Now, you would say that some teenagers and Gen Zs are drawn to their phone even while walking on the road. Why? Because that particular social media have enslaved them that they really don't know what else they are doing. But trust me, this artwork is beautiful. It is a form of information to we, the Gen Z and the young ones out there. Now, this particular artwork is written or made by Uchendu. Thank you very much. I'm sure you enjoyed this particular episode. Drop your comments on whatever you think about this particular artworks which I have displayed to you. Follow us on our social media platform and join us same time tomorrow.
welcome to your new favorite podcast.
The Overemphasized Podcast.
Of course, Chatbox. On what?
Signature TV.
Exactly. Let's tell them what Chatbox is about before we start yapping.
Of course. So this particular podcast is conversation,
Lifestyle.
Why is this girl jinxing me? But that's by the way.
Yeah.
This is the most emphasized conversational podcast you'll ever find.
Yes.
around
Very
the world.
engaging, very controversial.
course.
All the hot G's, all the hot topics you want to hear about.
Mhm.
It is in this podcast.
And
you
that's
get
on period.
all the juicy
And that's okay.
conversations. Now, if you want to join us, you want to send in your messages, your dilemmas, your ideas, see our social media handles right there. Make sure to engage. Right? Right?
This girl, stop jinxing me. So apparently, first of all, how was your weekend?
My dear, my weekend was.
How was your weekend? Did you go out? I know
Well,
you.
I'm a homebody.
Exactly.
Do you
So
get?
I
I
don't.
don't go
There's no
anywhere.
need to go into more details.
Yes.
But actually, I went out and I got myself in between some, older people, and we're actually talking about submission in marriage.
Oh my God, do you know? Wait, before you go further. So I was having a conversation with a friend on this particular topic. And it was not looking as if he wanted to fight. Because
So for me,
what is submission in marriage? Before we talk